Yeah.
Um,
Spank
so
and tank.
right.
Tank and
Uh,
spank even, Jesus.
um,
Spank and
I have no idea what you get up to in your spare time, but we don't need to know for this podcast or any podcast for that matter.
tank. Yeah, fair.
Hey guys, welcome back to our second episode for Outback Gamehouse Lord of the Rings. So how are you going, Minzy?
Not too bad. Very tired as usual.
Yeah, so we delayed this one. We'll try to make these weekly, as I mentioned in the last podcast, but we delayed this slightly because of Chapter 2 release, and then also uh, as of the recording, we recently had a bit more of a blog post in terms of a road ahead and stuff like that. So we'll incorporate all of those in this episode. So let's start with, I guess, first off, the rank being Arwen. Yeah, and I guess the Rivendell team being the initial marquee releases, we're now starting to see them become farmable. So
Yes.
Arwen being the first marquee that we've had in game is now farmable on hard chapter 5.5. So it's been what, roughly 90 days since
Yeah.
her marquee event
I
to
think so,
then
yeah.
being farmable. So I mean that seems to be in line with CG's uh their cadence, release cadence when it comes to Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes.
Yeah.
That's roughly around 90 days, 3 months ish since release. So if that's the cadence that they're following, I think that's fine. It obviously works in Star Wars Galaxy of Hero, and at least that gives the community some sort of look ahead. Um,
Yeah.
I guess in terms of when characters will then become farmable for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
It's like Elledan should be farmable within the next few weeks. So
yeah, yeah. So a lot of people were confused that Elledan wasn't farmable, but his marquee event was, 2 or 3 weeks after Arwen. So
yeah.
we should be expecting his in a couple of weeks, I'd say. Hopefully, if they're following the same kind of release method. Um, I wasn't expecting her to go into a campaign node. I think that would have been too easy, a bit too convenient as well.
Oh, you made the guild node.
Yeah, yeah, sorry, guild node. Instead, she's gone to a hard node. I think it would have been naive to expect anything less than that,
Mm.
because this is a new character. They're still going to try to gate her
Yeah.
shards as much as possible. So,
Yeah. A character for a legendary, no less.
and the character for a legendary, so yeah, there is a bit of value there in her
Yeah.
shards. And I would imagine Elledan will probably be the same deal.
Mm.
Maybe light hard instead of shadow.
I could
But
honestly still see it being Shadow. Like Elleden's a
yeah,
really good character.
yeah. I to be honest, I'm planning for hard chapter 5.9. I
Yeah.
just have a sneaky feeling that's where he's going to go.
Nice.
Um,
Always expect the worst and then be pleasantly surprised if it's not that.
that's true. That's true.
That's
I mean,
that pessimistic
it,
way to look on things, but
well, I mean, years of gaming, especially Hero Collector mobile gaming, it's
yeah,
just how you go to
pretty
approach it.
much.
I would love for them to be guild campaign node because that means I'm getting ability mats plus additional gold plus the shards I want. It's a win-win-win,
Exactly.
but that's not my expectation.
Yeah.
uh, um, Elledan did have a hiccup when they took Arwen out of the gem store,
Yes.
and put her on a campaign node. They accidentally took Elledan out as well.
Yeah.
So they've acknowledged that, thankfully, uh, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, is he out of the store?" Because sometimes you don't get a character in the gem store because there's a RNG in terms of which characters appear in your store.
Yeah.
It's not always the same.
Yeah.
Um, there's obviously a pool of characters and a select few appear. So, uh, but then everyone pretty much said they didn't have Elledan in their store, and this was after a few refreshes as well. So it was kind of clear that something whoopsie had happened.
Hmm.
So, um,
I believe him. That's when she confirmed that Elledan was coming to a hard node.
yeah, I believe around that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see where he goes. And in terms of, uh, I think 3 months is a good period. It gives, you know, uh, paying customers, people that buy a new character, gives them like 3 months of premium access, so to speak, where they have an advantage over the rest of the community. Um, and then even like in the case of Arwen, whilst she's now farmable, getting to 5-5 isn't, accessible to everyone and anyone. It's still a difficult task to get to. I
Yeah.
I did 5-3. I got up to 5-3, and then I just kind of parked my shadow progress. I was doing Isengard at the time, because I moved focus onto Rivendell, and building them up. And, there's only limited gold, so I didn't progress further on Shadow. But then with the update and Arwen going to 5-5, thankfully I was also building Haradrim at that time, so I pivoted to Haradrim and then I progressed through that Shadow, um, Chapter 5 campaign node.
Yeah.
Um, and got her unlocked. But I know, like, likes of yourself and other players that I know of don't have access to 5-5 yet. So whilst you can say it's now farmable for free to play, sure, but still need to unlock it, and that's no easy task either. So there is still a bit of,
Yeah.
um, I guess, premium for people that have spent on Arwen,
Hmm.
where they
Not to
have.
mention, like, actually getting her shards as well and getting her up to like 5 stars
Well, yeah,
plus.
exactly.
Yeah.
Once you then do have her node unlocked, if you were free to play, you'd be at 3 stars. Getting her to 5 stars isn't going to happen overnight.
Hmm.
It's, whatever the extra number of shards is. Don't know off the top of my head, but you need to get that, and then getting to 7 stars is, it's going to take you a
Yeah.
few weeks, or months. It's So, and by that time, I guess for, spenders, there'll be a new team that they focus on, and that cycle just continues. And that's how it's been in, um, pretty much all hero collector type games. The spenders will have access to a team or characters for a few months,
Hmm.
and then free to play will start gaining access to more stars on those characters. And by that time, there's another team for the spenders to focus on, and it just
Yeah.
rinses and repeats.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing within the next couple of weeks, maybe within the next month, some requirements for, or some news for the Witch King. So
Yeah, well, if data mines are to go by,
yeah,
I believe Witch King is still listed inside data mines as the next
yeah,
legendary. Um, and I'm not sure. I haven't checked in a month or two, but um, last I checked, Haradrim was still the unlock requirement for Witch King.
yes.
Not sure if that's been changed or not, but um, now that we have all 5 Haradrim characters, might make sense.
Mm.
They'll probably try to make Haradrim on a node, so at least it gives people a chance to farm the 2 marquee characters
I think that's
for the
usually how they
legendary.
do it in Star Wars. They usually chucked on a node like a week or two beforehand. The legendary starts.
Yeah, well, I have heard that. I obviously
Yeah.
didn't play Star Wars, but going by uh, Elrond, there
Mm.
was 2 marquees that weren't farmable.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go for what was there? There was 5. There was 6 characters that you could use
I
to
think
unlock
so.
him,
Yeah.
but then 2 of those 6 characters were marquees, so
Yeah.
you did have to spend on at least one of
Yeah.
the 2 marquee
Yeah,
characters.
that's right. Because Legolas came after. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Legolas came after. We're still unsure whether he'll be usable for Elrond in his second round because
Mm.
they specifically mentioned the names of the elves,
Yeah.
even though it says you can use elves to unlock Elrond, but then like almost the very next line, they're like, you can use these elves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Granted, they were the only elves in the game at that time. So
Granted, yes.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm assuming it went on his second round. They'll add Legolas and any other, if there are any other elves that
Mm.
are released, they'll probably add that to the list. But um, yeah, I mean, even Legolas isn't farmable yet. So
Yeah. I was gonna say he's not farmable as much of a muchness.
yeah, and he'll be farmable after Arwen and Elledan anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's not going to matter too much. Um, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the next legendary is, and if it is still Haradrim, and if we will be able to farm the 2 Haradrim marquees by that time.
Yes.
So yeah, in terms of marquees, we've obviously had a new marquee and a legendary for the dwarves in Bifur. Um,
Is he a
so
legendary?
yes, 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 he is. Oh, sorry, leader,
I
wrong
was gonna
elf.
say, like, when did this happen?
I had leader in my head. I had leader, and then you said Witch King, and you said legendary, and then
So you did a
I said
Minzy.
I did a Minzy. No, that's my bad. So yeah, we've finally got a dwarven leader.
Yes.
A lot of people, especially fans of the dwarf race, were kind of asking for a leader for the dwarves, seeing as the elves have 2 leaders.
Yeah.
So we finally did get one, and with I his kit seems okay. It's decent. I haven't fully, in saying that, I haven't fully tried him out or the team yet.
Mm.
Um, he got released around the time that we had Chapter 2 come out, so
Yeah.
um, I didn't really get the opportunity to kind of level him and try him um, on the raids or anything like that. But I mean, looking at his kit, it's decent. I wouldn't. He seems like what Legolas is for the elves. Like you can use him as a leader. Like Legolas, you can use him as a leader for the elves if you don't have Elrond. Like he's like almost a
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
he's like a backup option,
Mm,
especially for people that half most of the community don't have Elrond.
yeah.
If they haven't spent. So um,
The free to play option.
yeah, yeah. So Legolas is like the free to play option for an Elven team as a leader, and I see Bifur as basically being that for the dwarves.
Yeah.
I still feel there's a better and bigger dwarf leader coming, probably Thorin,
Yeah.
considering there's a faction around him. But for now, I think he's a seems a decent um, leader for the team.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm pretty excited to see what they do with the dwarves. Just the whole they gain might when they gain defensive. It seems pretty strong.
hmm. Yeah, I was impressed with the team running through his marquee event. So using the likes of Fro and Killy Philly,
Mm,
and obviously Gimli as well. They seem to kind of synergize well in that sense. Uh, he applies blind, which is useful, and I think one of the brothers does ability block.
yeah.
Fro does a stun.
Yeah.
They have a bit of what would you call it? A bit of control there in
Mm,
that team. They lack AOE. That's probably one of the downsides to the team.
yeah.
They're all heavily single target damage dealers. So
I'm pretty sure they're pretty slow as well because they're dwarves.
yeah, I haven't looked at their speed stats to be honest, but they're slow, but they take hits decently. So
Yeah, definitely.
whilst they might not be, uh, first kind of characters off the bat, um, they can at least take a hit and then start doing their things.
Yes. Just looking up their speeds. Yeah, Biffa's 135, Gimli's 128, Jesus. Killy's 140. That's not too bad. That's, I think, pretty average. And Philly's 144. Yeah. So not too bad. It's definitely a lot faster. Fro's only 123. Oh my god. That is horrid.
I don't mind slow tanks, to be honest.
Slow tanks, yeah, they're pretty decent. Yeah.
I mean, well, Froze Kit's not too bad.
Mm,
Decent tank. I was throughout that marquee event was taking a hit pretty decently. That stun is pretty good as
yeah, the
well.
stun's really nice.
And you kind of got two tanks between Fro and Gimli as well.
Yeah.
And then Gimli retaliating is decent as well. So
Yeah.
it looks. I'd be interested to see how they fare on chapter two. Chapter one, yeah, I still think they need someone that can do some
AoE, yeah.
AOE attacks. So I'm not. Yeah, I don't see them being a strong team for chapter one, but chapter two, I think they could do well.
Yeah. Especially with the Biffa's he's slow on large characters.
Well, yeah,
On
well,
top
I
of the
mean
blind,
that's
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's almost like it was specifically made for
Chapter
chapter
two, yeah.
two. So um, while we're on chapter two, I guess we can start talking about chapter two. Firstly, I just want to say what a vast improvement in kind of enjoyability
Yes.
when it comes to the RNG fest and annoyance of chapter one to then be able to play a raid where you just know what you're going into from
Yeah.
the offset. Like I know this is what's going to happen regardless.
Yeah.
There's a bit of RNG, but
And
a
it
little.
just
a little bit of RNG is fine,
Yeah,
and it's manageable. Like for instance, in chapter 2, when you topple him, he then two orcs come to support him. Right,
yeah,
the two orcs you get. Um,
a random, yeah.
it's a random list of the same kind of orcs that you have in chapter 1.
Mm.
So you could get the tank, you could get the skull crusher or something like that.
I don't
Uh,
think I've ever got the Skull Crusher yet. I've got the tank a few times, and that's not gone well. But the Skull Crusher, I don't actually think I've got.
I've had the skull crusher. I think I've had all all of the options from chapter
Mm,
1 at some point. So yeah, that's a possible RNG, but that's it's not game breaking RNG, and that kind
yeah,
of stuff you can deal with.
yeah,
Um, but you kind of know what you're getting.
yeah,
You know where your limits are with your particular team. You'll be able to do where your damage limits are to get
yeah,
the troll down, and whether you can finish him off before he regains kind of turn meter
yeah, exactly. It
and
just
then
makes
goes
it
again.
easier for planning cooldowns and everything as well. It makes it easier for guilds to be like to push raid as well.
Well, my biggest pet hate with chapter 1, and this literally happened to me. Like I upgraded 3 of my teams between the first time I did chapter 1
Mm,
to say like the third time I did chapter 1. I made some vast improvements on my team,
yeah, and you
and in
get worse
some cases
scores.
I scored worse.
Yeah,
And it's as a player, that it doesn't give you that feeling of accomplishment that you've
yeah,
spent money, or even as a free to play grinded the hell out of character shards and character
mm,
levels, spent that gold, and got the reward for upgrading those characters and teams.
yeah,
Um, it's like it's one thing if it was you tried a different team and you got a worse result, but you would think if you upgraded a team between raids that they perform better in the next raid,
yeah,
and for them
exactly.
and for the potential to go backwards, and sometimes drastically backwards.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just like, well,
it's
what do you
not a
do?
good feeling.
No, yeah, like what do you do? Like
Yeah,
it's there's no there's no metric there for what you should or shouldn't be doing.
yeah, yeah.
Um so yeah, it's chapter 1 was just a nightmare. Chapter 2, whilst in general most people scored less in chapter 2
It's
points wise,
so much more consistent.
it's consistent. So I know if I say, for instance, build my Rivendell team up a bit more, I know I will make improvements in that raid because, um, I know I can get that uh, troll down quicker in
Yeah,
his, say, second and third phase, so that he doesn't wipe my team out. Because
yeah,
it's just a stat based thing now, right?
mm,
You,
yeah,
what you're trying to do is get that troll down and toppled before he wipes your team.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and some things like crits and um, disrupts and stuff like that would obviously help along the way, but otherwise, yeah, it's purely just a damage race.
yeah.
Um,
Spank
so
and tank.
right,
Tank and
uh,
spank even, Jesus.
um,
Spank and tank.
I have no idea what you get up to in your spare time, but we don't need to know for this podcast or any podcast for that matter.
Yeah, fair.
Now, now they they marketed Haradrim as the Chapter 2 solution. Um, and a lot of MSF players have been comparing them to the Wakanda team as the Apex raid team that never quite delivered.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So I pivoted to Haradrim. I don't have them as built as some members in the community with 7-star G8 Haradrim out there.
Yeah.
Um, so I can't say based on my own, because my Haradrim and my Isengard aren't at equal playing fields. So my Haradrim did outperform my Isengard in
Mm.
Chapter 2, but in saying that, my Haradrim are slightly stronger than my Isengard, so that's not a fair comparison.
Yeah.
But uh, there's been a lot of examples where you've got two players with maxed Isengard and maxed Haradrims, and the Isengard are getting max scores like
Yeah.
900k points on difficulty 3 on chapter 2,
Mm.
whereas the Haradrim maxed, was seeing roughly half that
Yeah.
in points, and so that's not a good feeling for someone that's spending on a marquee, getting them to 7 stars, but someone that's been farming Isengard from the start of the game and got
Yeah.
them to 7 stars has outperformed without spending any money. So it's it's something they need to kind of look into, obviously, with character releases, especially when they're pitching them as being
Yeah.
something. It needs to be that, otherwise, as a spender, you're going to be like, I mean, yeah, that's what you said previously, that this is the solution, but is it really?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I like. I think the main issue is their focus. I found when I was running through
Mm.
chapter 2 with them. So obviously they have a lot in their kit on paper that makes them look strong against the troll, and for them to do well. But if those debuffs don't land,
Yeah.
then it's another issue altogether.
Yeah. And
Um,
they just don't have the damage to back up not landing those debuffs.
exactly. At least
Yeah.
with Isengard, if they don't have, if it doesn't land, it's still a focus check. Isengard actually have decent focus. That's the other
Yeah.
thing. Like Isengard have a stronger focus than Rotrim. So
Yeah.
it's a it's a twofold issue. Isengard have better focus, so it tends to land. Plus, if it doesn't land, you've
They've
got
just got
heavy
more
hitters.
damage.
You've
Yeah.
got such heavy hitters in on the Isengard team
Mm.
that if it doesn't land, they've got a backup in terms of just pure damage. So yeah, um, I know they're aware of it.
Mm.
So I've spoken to a couple of the um, designers, and by designers, it's like the kit designers and stuff like that. And they're aware of the discrepancy and how it hasn't lived up to expectations. So I'm not sure what they're going to do with that information, whether they'll do a buff to Haradrim or whether they'll just make sure the same mistake doesn't happen for future teams. We'll have to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
But otherwise, Haradrim aside, Chapter 2, in
It's
my
been good.
opinion, has been a great raid.
Mm. Hopefully,
So
chapter 3 is not chapter 1. Please don't be. Please. Don't know if my
well,
mental can handle that.
we'll get to. There was 2 blog posts this morning, which I mentioned. So one was the Gondor month that
Yes.
we're having in September, and one's the road ahead. So we'll park that for the road ahead because I think that kind of leads into that kind of discussion. But yeah, I'm glad they're aware of the issues, and hopefully that means that they learn from their mistakes. So yeah, I mean, if Chapter 2 was a shit show, I reckon there would have been a huge mass exodus. I'm just glad Chapter 2 was a good raid
Yeah.
because I don't know if people would have had the patience
Yeah.
to do 24 hours of crappy RNG and then another 24 hours back to back, that would have just killed people.
Yeah. That would have killed me.
Oh, I was ready to punch a baby. That's how angry I was.
What did I say to you the other day? It's like I'm either gonna yeet my computer out the window or I don't remember exactly. I'm just like, yeah, I chose to save my computer.
Yeah, oh, I was swearing so many times during that chapter one raid.
Yeah,
It's just, yeah, like you get a perfect wave one, where you get everything right.
yeah,
You get the bomber to kill the entire of his team, so you get your max points possible on that wave one. All your cooldowns are perfect. You're like, yes, this is it. And then
double tank.
yeah, double tank, or you get 9 stacks on the bomber, and you're like, here we go again, and then he kills your team, and you're just like,
Pain.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty bad.
Um, So yeah, obviously they have now announced their plans for September, and
Mm,
September is going to be the month of Gondor. So we have two Gondor characters currently in game, so one being Horrendil and the other one being Sergeant Ara or Ara.
yeah.
So we've got two characters currently. There's going to be three new characters coming out.
Mm,
So uh, there's going to be the two brothers, so Boromir and Faramir, and then obviously their dad, uh, Denethor.
Thor. Yeah.
So we don't know too much detail. It was just what they
It's pretty
provided
much.
us was a brief
Yeah.
overview. So they did the same thing with Rivendell, where they were like, these are three characters upcoming, and a bit of like a background in terms of their lore and stuff like that, which is for people that aren't familiar with the Lord of the Rings lore. It's always good knowing the background behind
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
Um, those three characters, they are in the game as PVE characters in
Mm.
certain chapters. It's hard to say whether their kits will be the same as the PVE characters. Usually,
I
it's
think
not.
it, yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say they won't be the same. There'll be some differences.
And likewise, both Boromir and Faramir were playable characters in the beta.
Mm.
Again, a lot of beta characters have
Been changed.
significantly
Yeah.
changed as well. So no idea what they'll end up being like. I'm curious whether we're going to have a three marquee situation, which will be different because I don't think we've had a three marquee team yet. So far, it's been two,
Mm.
um, or whether it's going to be similar to Rivendell, where it's going to be two marquees plus a legendary.
Uh, true. Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
I
Yeah.
if this is a September kind of release method, based on how they have marquees 2 weeks apart, I'm leaning towards Denethor as being a legendary,
Maybe. I feel like
or
he.
one of the sons. But
Yeah. I don't think the Suns will be, but I can see Denethor maybe. Um. Yeah, I'm not sure. That'd be interesting to see.
I mean, it could be three marquees, but
Yeah.
that's going to start encroaching into October, which they could do.
Yeah. I mean, for all we know, Haradrim could be the unlock for Denethor. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. data mines aren't 100% accurate. I
No, no,
don't know
and
why people are always like, "Oh, it's data
well,
mined, it's true." It's
yeah. So
no.
that that needs people's expectations of data mines need a bit of tweaking. It's good to see data mines and have an idea of what's upcoming, but it's never
Set in
um,
stone.
set
Yeah.
in stone until they officially announce things. And it could be a totally different unlock team. You know,
Yeah.
it could be the dwarves.
Yeah. Could be.
So I we don't know, and we don't know if there's going to be a legendary in the Gondor team upcoming.
Mm.
I'm just speculating purely because it's going to be three new characters, and so far, when it's been a three character release, one's been a legendary, but we also
Yeah.
don't have we've only got a few months of data to go by, so
Mm.
they could do anything.
No, it's a good point. So
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I've always rated Perendil. Like I think he's an underrated character, just
yeah.
missing a bit of synergy to make him really click. And I
Yeah.
think this having a full Gondor team will make him very strong. Um, Especially if I wonder if Boromir will have some sort of on death grant allies. The speed buff might, some sort of inspiration.
Pain. That'd be good. We have Gandalf for that, okay?
I
uh,
mean, I like it would,
that'd be good.
it would matches, character.
That'd be good. What's the actor's name?
Sean Bean, Sean
Yeah,
Bean.
Sean Bean. Yeah, it'd be good if they just had a buff called Sean Bean.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, they don't have the movie rights for
Yeah, yeah,
actors, so yeah. But
that'd
I
be
mean,
amazing.
I am curious whether he'll have a fellowship tag though. Um, it's interesting that they released a fellowship team with two and a half fellowship characters,
Mm,
and then immediately release character that could potentially be a fellowship character, but
yeah,
then position him for Gondor instead.
I'm not
There aren't
too.
too many fellowship characters, you
Yeah,
know, in the story. Like you had the hobbits,
mm,
and then you've got obviously uh, Legolas, Gimli, Aragon, um, Boromir, and is that it? I think that's it
uh,
when it comes to the Fellowship.
Gandalf. Yeah,
Oh, and Gandalf, right? So we've got three currently. So we got Legolas, Gimli, Gandalf, who no one has yet, but he's in the game at least.
mm,
And there's two more. So there's rumors of an Aragon release. So
yeah,
that's separate to the Strider. We still need that fifth, right?
yeah.
Could be a new Frodo character. I don't know, but
Yeah.
we'll have to see.
I'm not too worried about it just because I know this is one of the main differences, at least when I played MSF compared to Star Wars, is Star Wars is not afraid to release multiple of the same character. I think there's something like 5 or 6 Han Solos. Um,
I mean, well, I think by the time you left MSF, that was the case.
yeah,
Now they have released multiples of
yeah,
characters.
yeah,
Like
that's what
I
I've
think
seen.
we're at 4 or 5 variations of a Captain America,
Mm,
and so forth. And yeah, I see that for this game.
yeah,
It's just whether they'll early in a game's release have multiple of a certain character or not, or whether
yeah,
they'll give it a year and then bring out an alternate
yeah.
version.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Well, yeah. So we'll
Yeah,
just have to
because
see.
I did not play. I haven't played Star Wars for that long. So I think it started in like 2015, 2016. And I only started playing in like 2020.
Yeah,
So
I think around that time. I think we're at 8 or 9 years for
mm.
Booker. But yeah, we'll see.
And they could also just do retags as well for Strider. And like, I don't know if they've ever renamed someone on Star Wars, but I'm pretty sure they've retagged some people, some characters.
Yeah, well, in MSF they have, and that's purely for like balancing acts and stuff like that. But very
Yeah.
rarely, like the likes of Thanos had the
Yeah.
Eternals tag.
Does he?
Um,
Well, yeah.
no, had had the
Ah, right.
Eternals
Yeah, yeah,
tag,
yeah.
and then when they released the Eternals, they took Eternals off him.
Yeah.
Um,
And with Punisher as well. I remember they did that. That's when I was playing
yeah,
the
they
military.
well, they added a tag for him.
Yeah.
Removing tags, I think they've only done like I could probably only count with one hand the
Mm.
amount of times I've done that. It's very rare.
Yeah.
I didn't play Star Wars, but I imagine it's probably the
I
same.
think it's probably the same. Yeah.
Adding tags is one thing, but removing tags causes a bit of,
Balancing issues.
well, usually like hit back from communities,
Yeah.
saying, they assumed, that character was for that thing and they built around that. And now
Yeah.
you've taken that away from me, la di da di da. So it's usually not something most developers try to do because of that reason. It's
Yeah.
always easier to add than
Yeah.
take away from a community.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just also balancing, just because like taking a tag away, that means that faction that they previously belonged to, you've got to rework them now somehow.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's just
Exactly.
more of a headache for them. So
Yeah. So usually they don't do that. But we'll just have to see. Uh, Otherwise, the only other news we've had recently is the Road Ahead post by the game director Nick Reinhardt, and I must say it was a good blog post.
I must say, I just love that last name, Reinhardt. Like, imagine having the last name of Reinhardt. I'm sorry. Anyway.
No, it's like especially if you're Overwatch, um,
Yeah.
if you're an Overwatch geek, it's a common Reinhardt. Reinhardt's a common surname. I've seen it
No, fair enough.
plenty of places, but it is a strong kind of name.
Yeah.
Nice one to have. But as far as the game goes, I think he made a very good post that kind of addressed a lot of the issues players are having currently. You know, as far as my kind of gaming concerns and stuff like that, I don't always need to hear a solution from a developer. If I know that they know about it, is usually enough for me to kind of be satisfied.
Yeah.
Obviously, if then nothing happens and they just go, "Oh, we know about it," and then
Yeah.
you know, flick it aside, that's another thing. But I'd rather some sort of acknowledgement than silence,
Yeah. Yeah.
because silence makes me wonder, like, do they care? Are they listening? What's going on? But
Yeah.
a post like this, I think, is good, and hopefully they kind of do this more regularly, kind of keep connected with the community and
Mm.
engaged. I think it's good for them and good for us as well. Uh, so yeah, basically, kind of summarized where the game's at. It's been, according to his post, 3 months since the launch, or at least global launch, I believe.
Yeah.
And he acknowledged the kind of the feedback from chapter one. Basically, but what he said is they're going to continue monitoring it because they don't want to knee jerk. A lot of the um, kind of their reaction towards it. So
Yeah.
chapter one's been around for a few weeks, so I can I get that, but I think this is a good step in terms of saying, "Hey guys, we hear you. We'll look closely at it.
Yeah.
If it continues being an issue, then we'll address it." And I think the majority of the community, would be accepting of a response like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's all anyone really cares about anyway. Um, they spoke about raid reward delivery, and I think they kind of addressed that where you can claim the raid box after your raid's finished, directly from the
Mm.
raid reward screen. You can click on the box and you can claim your reward. Otherwise, I believe if you don't, it will eventually go into your mail for collection.
Yeah.
I believe that's what that was about. Um, they spoke about better testing, for parts of the games that they'll try to focus on, and yeah, basically just owning up to their mistakes, which is always good to hear,
Mm.
rather than saying, "Oh, you know, we did no,
Sucks to be you.
yeah, we did no wrong." It's yeah, and I've seen blog posts like that from other companies.
Yeah.
So this is good. It shows humility, in my opinion.
Yes.
Um,
No, that's not capable of EA.
no,
I'm sorry, I had to say that.
it's true. I mean, EA has had a terrible, terrible bloody reputation,
Yeah.
for a long time. I think I've seen a good change in more recent years. I think there's been new management, a new kind of drive.
To be honest, and I know this is going to be a hot take.
Minzy and hot takes, they don't so.
um, I can't speak for how it was before I played Star Wars,
Yeah.
but for the time that I have played it, it's not been perfect. Nothing
Mm.
ever will be, but it seems like almost two separate teams, at least in my experience. From what I've heard about and from what I've experienced, it seems like two completely different, yeah, people.
Who are the like between
What do you mean?
what do you mean by two separate teams?
I just mean like I hear about problems before I started playing and how just horrible it was, and I'm sure that is true.
Oh, right. You mean like the old
Yeah,
Star Wars Galaxy of Hero experience versus
yeah.
how
And
it is
while it's
currently?
still not great, 100%, it's nowhere, at least in my opinion, nowhere near as bad as people make it out to be. In
Hmm.
my opinion, I think people are just burnt from the past, which is understandable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like it's always hard to kind of get the community back,
Yeah.
after
I
you've
mean,
had.
it's the same with me and MSF.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Once you've got that tainted experience, it's
yeah,
hard to kind of, yeah, change that, and that's understandable. And you're right. I whilst I personally have never played Star Wars Galaxy of Hero, I have heard that it's two vastly different experiences, from early, the first kind of how it was iteration of it versus how it is now.
yeah,
Um, they made a lot of player friendly changes in terms of farmability, stuff like that, where they increased the number of shards for
yeah,
early
yeah. The double
characters,
drops. Yeah,
double drops, which makes new players, it kind of fastens their experience. MSF, it still takes you the same bloody amount of time
yeah,
as a new player now as it did for me, years ago, for unlocking certain characters.
yeah,
And that kind of stuff doesn't help in terms of bringing new players in because if it's going to take them, MSF's been 5 years. If it's going to take them 3 or 5 years to then become competitive, no one's going to
Yeah.
stick around for that long. You want to kind of fast track new player experience, get them to kind of end game as quickly as possible. And Star Wars Galaxy of Hero did do that with that $100 boost thing if you wanted
Yeah,
to
the
spend.
hyperdrive bundle, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they had things in there to do that. So that I have heard good changes in Star Wars Galaxy of Hero, and you're right, it does sound like it's almost like two different teams. But EA in general, I think we've kind of digressed away from Lord of the Rings, but it's kind of related. But EA in general, I guess, has had a shift in terms of their philosophy and stuff like that, which is good to see.
Yeah.
They're no longer the company that the gaming community shits on. That's now Blizzard.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, Blizzard has become the new EA.
uh,
It's yeah, pretty yikes.
Anyway, so back to the road ahead. They did mention, they're looking at not just making big changes, but also small changes that can make a difference in terms of the quality of life. So it's good that they're thinking about that and always looking at that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do in that quality of life sense. We'll just have to see. Otherwise, they went into uh, chapter 4 and new character
And the art.
releases
Oh
and
my
the art.
god. So
Um, so we don't know what chapter 3 and what chapter 4 will be like. Chapter 3, it seems like they'll be uh, basically like chapter 1 in the sense that you're facing a team of orcs,
yeah.
but the mechanics will be different.
Yes.
That's where the similarities start and end. Is you'll be facing a team of orcs, and then chapter 4 will be similar to chapter 2 in the sense that you're facing a single target. And in chapter four's case, it's going to be Balrog, and boy, he looks freaking amazing. So yeah, I am curious how this mechanic's going to work because they gave a sneak preview of his artwork. Obviously, no discussion in terms of mechanics or anything like that. So
Yeah.
all we've seen is three different modes that they've mentioned, and there's different art styles for each mode. So there's a neutral mode where he's basically got the um, lava armor and he's a bit fiery, and that's a neutral mode. And he's got the
Yes.
fire mode where he's full on flame on kind of mode.
Flame on. Yes.
And then he's got shadow mode where he's just a dark kind of shadowy kind of character.
He looks like a World of Warcraft raid boss, and I love it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just curious, like what triggers each of the modes,
Mm,
how, and then how things change based on the mode and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, like they've done a bit of a sketch art, and it looks like the first one looks like it's the um, neutral mode, maybe, and he does like or maybe it looks like maybe the fire mode because it looks like he swipes like a fire
yeah,
AOE at your team um, and kind of staggers them purely based on the art. And then the final one looks like possibly when he goes into shadow mode, it looks like there's a shadowy
yeah, like
aura around
tendrils.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And again, does like an AOE on your team. So I am really curious in terms of how they implement that in terms of the mechanics and stuff like that.
Yes.
Um, but it's good to see stuff like that. To be honest, it keeps us excited in terms of what to come.
Mm,
Now, two big news as well. Aside from that, well, actually, three if you include where he spoke about new characters. They obviously have access to do like an alternate what if timeline.
Yes.
He did say that's not something they'll probably jump into straight away. Like a what if Gandalf got the ring? They're probably going to try focus on the lore-based stories at
Yeah.
least initially. But that's something that they have access to if they ever need to do that.
To be honest, I don't think we'll get the what if characters at least a year down the line.
Hmm. Yeah, I
I
mean,
think.
there's plenty of characters in the books that they
Mm,
could lean on. It's whether they want to kind of keep some of those in the back of their back pockets for a later period and then release
yeah.
some alternate characters in the meantime.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those we'll just have to see kind of things. Now the first big thing that they mentioned is glyphs. So
Yes.
glyphs is it's a character personalization system, so that will help you modify or improve a character's combat stats and performance. So basically, mods
Yes.
is what that is. Um,
The way that they word it is interesting because it
mhm.
says that will modify or improve your character's combat stats and performance, which sounds like Star Wars mods.
Hmm.
But later down in that paragraph, I believe they say how it affects them in combat, which mods don't really do that in Star Wars besides like speed, obviously, make characters go faster, hit harder, blah, blah, blah. It sounds more MSF where it will give you actual effects in combat.
Yeah,
Which,
okay. Oh, I mean, I've never played Star Wars Galactic Hero, but like the ISO system, which is, I guess, the similar comparison to the mod system in Star Wars Galaxy of Hero,
yeah,
gives you um so there's the different ISO crystals that give various stat boosts.
yeah,
But then you can choose the ISO type, and there's five of those, and each of those have a combat that they have a stat. There's stat bonuses for those, but in general, it's more of a combat system where it lets you, for instance, attack twice
yeah,
or um, do extra healing if you use like a support one or other various combat advantages. Yeah, so you're right. If Star Wars doesn't have that with their mod system, then it does seem like a hybrid between
mm,
the two games, MSF and Star Wars. So I'll read it out, the second half. So this would be a system that would give players the ability to make characters even more powerful, along with effects that will change the way they plan and battle. I'm personally really excited about the idea of the set bonuses. Sets will give your characters different battle advantages that we're coming up with. And I think we have an interesting take on how stats will change in the game currently being explored.
yes.
So,
And
yes,
set bonuses are straight out of Star Wars as well. If you have two of the same type of, well, two or four of
mm,
the same type of mod, it will give you a set bonus. So it's just basically extra of that stat.
okay.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if you've ever played WoW, but it's basically like set bonuses from that with the raid gear. It's like if you have two offense mods, it will
Well,
give you
yeah, I mean, I never
boosts to
played,
that.
I never played WoW, but I played FF14,
Yeah,
Diablo.
yeah,
A lot of games have gears and stuff like that with set bonuses. That's not unusual. MSF doesn't. Yes, MSF doesn't have set bonuses.
yeah.
So a lot of people kind of get taken back when they see a new system like a mod system or a new star system and stuff like that. But
I
it's
understand why with Star Wars it's because you can roll speed, it just makes it the best stat. But
yeah.
the thing is, it's not guaranteed speed, it's RNG. I think if you took the RNG aspect or even just the speed aspect out,
Mm.
then it wouldn't be as bad.
Yeah, like I've always said, speed in a turn-based game is going to be king.
Yeah.
Um, Hopefully they probably leave speed out,
Hopefully. Yeah.
but we'll have to see. But in terms of new systems, I think that we just have to expect that. That's just how these games evolve, how they
Hmm.
add more flavor to them. There'll be a Red Star equivalent, I would imagine, that comes out. Whatever I think it's called, relics in Star Wars Galaxy of Hero.
Yeah.
Um, there will be a second star system. Like I said, it'll be naive to expect otherwise. Um, as long as it's done in a way that's reasonable, I think that's all I
Hmm.
would ask for. That it's not something that's pay to win heavy, like you have to spend to get them, and it's like a huge disadvantage if you don't.
Yeah.
I think if they make it a reasonable way for free to play still to acquire them and stay somewhat competitive, I think that's probably the ideal situation for any new kind of system release.
Yeah. 100%.
Um, Now, the third and final topic, which is a multi-squad PvP feature that they'll be releasing after the glyph system. So, they spoke about how we've got marquee events, we've got raids, we've got an eventual glyph system that will, again, bolster our teams and characters. So, rather than having just arena and raid, we'll also have a multi-squad PvP where we can start flexing our teams.
It's,
Um,
it sounds like GAC.
Yeah, yeah. So I was going to relate that to Cosmic Crucible in Marvel Strike Force, but in terms of uh, Star Wars Galaxy of Hero, that's GAC. So, and a lot of people um, speak highly of GAC, especially in terms of gems. I'm not sure what it's called in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, but they took away Arena as being your main focus
Yeah.
for earning that premium currency and put that into GAC.
Yes.
And a lot of people in Lord of the Rings, especially people in the original Shard, are kind
Mm.
of frustrated in terms of their uh, how much gems they can earn because it's quite difficult. If they
Yeah.
move that to GAC, I could see, or a GAC equivalent in this game. I'd say that'd be a vast improvement if they put gems in there.
Yeah. It's it's interesting because for the veterans that change from putting gems from arena to GAC,
Hmm.
it was worse for them, but for overall the community, it was so much
Oh,
better.
you're never gonna have an implementation that ticks boxes for
Yeah.
every facet of the community. As
Yeah.
long as you can hit the majority, I think that's where
Mm.
most of the aim would be at and the concern. So you're right. For most of the veterans, or I should say, most of the top half in, say, Guild One, for instance, or some of the, sorry, not in Shard One, for instance, or some of the other arena shards, it might be a negative effect on them.
Yeah.
But for the vast majority of the community, like you say, it'll be a beneficial move
Yeah.
to do something like that.
Which is interesting because obviously the people at the top of arena are your biggest spenders. So
Hmm.
yeah,
It,
it's
it
interesting.
it's always one of those balances as a developer,
Mm.
to kind of make your spenders happy, but then also make your majority player base happy. Because if you don't have both, the game
Yeah.
fails. You need both. You need the people spending,
Yeah.
but you also need the numbers to
Yeah.
keep the game alive. You can't just have one or the other.
Yeah.
So it's always a balance act.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I'm. I think it's smart for them to release GAC pretty early because it's by far just their most successful game mode.
Mm.
Um, it's like if you mention Galaxy of Heroes to someone, they always bring up GAC just because it's just fun.
Mm.
Um, I hope they don't have room bonuses like in MSF, which I don't. I'm not sure if they will,
Mm.
but from the way they worded the paragraph, it sounds like they're going to be doing something. So I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm open to it, I guess. I don't know. I have to
yeah.
wait and see what it is.
Again, it was a one single paragraph on it.
Yeah.
Don't know what they could even they could change it again, but
Mm.
so it seems like something that's not going to come out until maybe late this year or
Yeah. I'd say probably late this year. Yeah.
yeah. So we've got a bit of time. Because they it sounds like they want to release the glyph system first
Mm.
prior to this.
And
So
I also think that's why they're going so heavy on marquees at the moment, just to get out the characters so they can build up a roster for people to build.
yeah, yeah. I think that's what they did with raids as well, although I
Mm.
don't think it was necessary. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's good that they're starting to release game modes. Yeah, because the community's just been bored prior, so
Mm.
um, yeah, I reckon that's good to see. I guess we'll end this episode the same way we ended the last one, where we just briefly talk about, I guess, where we're at individually in terms of our roster.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what I said in the last episode, but my focus since then has been Haradrim. I pivoted away from Isengard as my shadow team towards Haradrim. A, because they're a new team, so I expected them to perform slightly better. Um, B, because there's the potential data mine of them being an unlock, so the value of those characters is slightly higher because of that. And then obviously they pitched them for chapter two. I I haven't been fully disappointed with them in terms of chapter two performances. Like I said, I don't have them at super high levels like I did do, like other people in the community have.
Yeah.
I used them to get through chapter five, hard difficulty, and I found them a bit easier than Isengard. But they've got their pros and cons, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, Otherwise, I have been slowly building up the dwarf team. I do like dwarf as a faction, so I was building them slightly even before Bifur's announcement. That just
Yeah.
kind of helped me a little. But I am looking forward to Gondor because I've even in the beta I use Horrendal early game in global
Mm.
launch. I used Horrendal because he's got a good kit. He just needs that little bit extra. So
Yeah.
I just him alone. Plus, how Boromir and Faramir have been in the beta, I am kind of excited to see how that team is. So I usually focus one shadow team and one light team. I try to not do two light teams at once or two shadow teams at once.
Yeah.
But I'll usually have one more focused on than the other. So at the moment, I'm building Haradrim. That's my main focus, and then I'm probably gonna on the side start building Erendil and Sergeant Ara. on the side as my light
Hmm.
bend. But yeah, what about you?
I just got my Ironhide to 7 star the other day, so I'm happy about that. I have been working on my Haradrim as well, but I'm not sure if I'm going to continue because one, I didn't buy the packs to get them to 5 star,
Hmm.
and two, sorry, doorbell's going off. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to invest that much into them when I could just invest into Isengard.
Hmm. Yeah, and
Um,
that's where it's at the moment, based on how they've performed. My my recommendation, if you're a free to play player, is go Isengard.
yeah, pretty
Uh,
much. Yeah.
you're not going to have them at 5 star for any potential legendary unlock.
Mm,
And otherwise they haven't been performing as well as Isengard, and you can get Isengard at a higher star. And
yeah,
star is the main thing in this game.
pretty much. Yeah.
If you can get
So
Isengard at a higher star, that's the way to go.
yeah, I think I'm going to swap to Isengard more than likely, especially since I can't farm that Arwen node. But besides that, I've been working on my road to Rivendell still, and I'm actually liking them quite a lot, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you don't even need to use the full Isengard team. Like if you've got Ironhide to 7 star, he's a
yeah,
he's a beast.
yeah, exactly.
It's just 5-3 where the game gives you a
Yeah,
shitty
yeah,
Ironhide. You can't use your own, so you'll need an alternate option at that
yes.
point. I used Nuraz. Mine was kind of decently built at that, so I was able to use him.
Mm,
Um, but otherwise, my team was 4 Haradrim plus my 6 star brute,
mm,
um, that I've been using. But Ironhide will do the same thing as
yeah,
brute in that sense, and use 4 on the Isengard team.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with my route to Rivendell, to be honest. I think they're just going to be a solid raid team throughout all of them. Like even in chapter 1, even though they don't have that much AoE besides Strider, they're
Mm.
still just really decent just because they have so much assists and everything.
Yeah, I
Um,
I can almost always get the bomber to 10 stacks with
yeah,
them.
yeah,
The issue with them is you're like you say, you've only got Strider that does the AoE.
mm,
So usually, most times the bomber doesn't kill his own team.
yeah,
That's the only issue. They just
yeah.
need that bit of
You just
AoE
need that
damage.
luck. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure what one I should finish first. Like, I don't know if I should finish my Road to Rivendell since I'm so invested into them already,
Hmm.
or if I just kind of leave them where they're at for now, finish my Isengard, well, not finish, but get them up a bit more so I can start farming Arwen and then go back to Road to Rivendell.
Well, if your Rivendell team is your main light team,
Mm,
especially for arena,
yeah,
not sure how long they'll last as arena
yeah,
meta. We don't know what's upcoming. It's always good to build your arena team.
mm,
Getting extra stars on arena characters isn't a bad thing.
yeah.
Um, so I've now got Arwen as my daily farm. I've got it to 6 stars now.
Already, holy shit.
Yeah, I haven't spent the gold. I need
Ah,
250 gold, but she's got the shards at least.
not bad.
But oh no, but I started from 5.5 shards. So
Ah, okay. I was gonna say that was really quick.
no, I think my last pull on her marquee event gave me an 80 from memory.
Ah, fair enough. Yeah.
So I was like It was like
Winning.
something. It was like something like 2 shards I needed. So
Yeah.
even a 12 drop would have got me it, and I got an
Mm.
80, and I was like, oh, wish I got this earlier. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's helped me
Yeah.
down the line, I guess. So whatever. But yeah, I would suggest like, and if they're like Rivendell is your main raid team as well, for
Yeah.
chapter one and chapter two, it's not going to hurt getting them up
Mm.
as much as you can. So
Yeah.
my
Especially Lomian. Like, I'm so glad I invested into him because he's so good in chapter two.
he came in into
He
his own in
came in
chapter.
clutch. Yeah.
Yeah. Same with Elra here, to be
Mm.
honest. He was useless in chapter one. Apart from the retaliation he would do if anyone hits
Yeah.
Elledan, which was useful. But in chapter two, his multi attack really came
Yeah.
in handy.
It's really good.
But Lomian, boy, his first special, whew, those crits
Yeah. Pretty much.
really
Also,
helped.
the nimble as well on his second special just helps so much.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah, so he's been good as well. But yeah, if I was you, I mean, everyone can play their game differently, but I would say probably get Isengard up.
yeah,
It'll give you a good solid second team as well for raids and stuff,
yeah,
and then give you access to a node to improve your first team.
yeah.
And then at
Go
that
back
point,
to
you
the
could probably,
hobbits.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
That's probably what I was gonna do. Yeah. So
All
yeah.
right. Okay. Well, it was a good episode. We got some useful information out of CG, and we're all excited to see what's up and coming, especially after the nightmare of chapter one.
Yes.
Um, I think it's been even our personal kind of experiences, and our even if I go back and watch our first episode, I'd imagine our moods are slightly different because it's
It's
chap
dreadful.
our first episode was directly after chapter one,
Yeah.
and we were just like, "What the fuck is going on?"
And now it's
Uh,
just like, I hate it here. Let me leave.
so, so yeah, I'm looking forward to chapter three and four now.
Yes.
More of chapter two kind of style rating would be great.
Mm. Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with chapter three because it does look like it's going to be more of that like wave type
Hmm.
of chapter again.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
I
wave style combats is
yeah,
fine.
yeah,
It's just the mechanics. As long as I get rid of
the
don't do a
RNG.
similar RNG based bomb mechanic or anything RNG based. Like it'll be fine. Like the
Yeah,
waves isn't the issue. It's the RNG, and then there was
yeah.
layers of RNG on top of the RNG. That's what made it painful.
Mm.
Um,
What do you think would make chapter one better in terms of RNG?
so uh, I've mentioned my opinion to the devs before. To be honest, so the main issue is so unless you have AoE characters, you can
Mm.
only focus on the bomber or the other orcs, right?
Yeah,
You do one or the other, right? So when you're playing chapter one, you're trying to get the other orcs down as much as possible. Once the bomber takes his turn, you're then trying to maximize his stacks,
mm.
whilst also trying to deal as much damage to the others as you can. But generally, that's the play, right?
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, then the issue then becomes so you've got the bomber to 7 to 9 stacks, right? And you've been focusing on him, but then more times than not, he throws the bomb at you. So it feels
yeah,
like your effort to reward isn't there in that instance, right? In some cases, it's just better to get him to 2 stacks and then just focus on the other orcs and just hope for
Yeah.
the best, because you're hoping for the best regardless. So
Mm.
I would probably change the 10% to 20%. I
Mm.
think getting him to 5 stacks is still a reasonable ask. It's not, it won't make it too easy, but it's enough that you can get him to 5 stacks and then get that 100% strike rate on him that he doesn't hit you.
Yeah.
And then so you have that assurance that he's going to attack his team. So you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Getting to 10 stacks, honestly, I've only ever done that with RTR.
Mm.
Isengard,
Yeah. Same.
I've got to 9, I think, is my best, and that's with both of the double assists.
Yeah.
That adds 4, and you know, yeah. So I've got to 9 with them, and that's the closest team that has come close. But yeah, in general, most teams aren't going to get you that 10 stacks,
Yeah.
you know, and most people are sitting in that 7 to 9 region with stacks,
Mm.
and then for the bomb to always hit them, it's just
Pretty
stupid. So
much. Yeah.
even if they do something like 7 stacks, just yeah, 15%, whatever it may be, and
Yeah.
get it to 7 stack. If 5 is too easy, something, if they just lessen the number of stacks needed to get a guaranteed hit, I think would make that easier, a
Yeah.
better experience. Because then you're not worried too much about him,
And you can
um,
focus on the
and you
rest
can
of them.
focus on the
Yeah.
rest. And especially when in subsequent waves, you could get shit rolls like
2
3 tanks and
bombers.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then you're not too stressed about trying to get the bomber because you know you don't need too many stacks on him.
Yeah.
Um, if it is 5, even if you get 4, you could hope for the best kind of thing. Um, I'd say that would be a quick solution if they reduced the number of stacks needed for 100% strike
Mm.
rate.
Yeah.
Would be a big change, because I don't mind the philosophy of the mechanic. I think
It's just too
the
hard to achieve
execution,
them.
the
Yeah.
execution didn't quite hit it. So
Yeah.
I that would be my suggestion. Just tweak um, the stack bonus from
Yeah.
currently being 10% per stack to 20 or even 15% or something like that.
Yeah. I was thinking either that or make the waves consistent, not RNG based.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I I think we're kind of, the general philosophy is the same thing. Remove one layer of RNG, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Having the multi-layer RNG is what kills it.
Yeah.
So either you change the RNG here, or you change the RNG, you get rid of the RNG here, or get rid of the RNG there.
Yeah.
Having too many layers just makes it ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Where you got to spend like hours literally just on like one team, and it's like,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Well, they're looking into it, so hopefully.
yeah, who knows? It could be 3 months, it could be more, but yeah, at least they've acknowledged it. At least they've acknowledged it. But anyway, I think that was pretty much all we have to talk in on this episode, unless you've
Yeah.
got anything else you want to add.
I don't think so. No.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in. We'll try, like I said, try to make this weekly as much as possible. Obviously, with things, new game modes and stuff like that, we may kind of shift it to incorporate a new game mode or a new blog into that episode. But give or take, we'll try to keep this as a weekly episode. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Please do feel free to reach out, leave any comments. Would love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks.